So thank you for that talk. So interesting. I am going to be saying a little bit now about Astronomers Planet Earth. I'm one of the coordinators, along with Leo Bircher, of the steering group of Astronomers Planet Earth. And I'm going to say a little bit about Astronomers for Planet Earth, who we are, why this organization exists, and then describe a bit about what members have been up to since it was formed about 5 years ago now. So first of all, who are we? So members include folks from all over the world whose education or work or avocation connects them to astronomy. And that's a lot of people doing a lot of different things: educators, researchers, students, planetarium and communication specialists, amateurs, science writers, and more. And more than 2,200 people have joined in the past 5 years, and a lot has been accomplished. And I'll say a little bit about, give some examples of this. But part of why we wanted to bring people together today was that we also believe that there's much more that we can do with this large and diverse membership that we have. So what is our mission? Our mission is to enable this community to take action on climate change and to prepare ourselves to do it, to learn from one another about how to do it, and then to figure out the best ways we can do that. I know I don't need to say much about this to this audience. What we know is that action is urgent, and that the folks who are least responsible for the problems that we're now facing everywhere are the ones who are feeling the greatest impacts. Impacts are being felt everywhere. So scientists agree, it's real, we're responsible, it's bad, but there is hope. And the point is that there are many, many solutions to this. There are many things that need to be done all at once. There's no one silver bullet, but that means there's many, many things that can be done. And so that's where we come in. So I want to take just a minute to talk about why astronomers, like why this group, why astronomers. And I'm going to ask folks to think for just a minute of yourselves about this. What is it that, that we in particular can bring to this challenge that we all face around the world? And I'm going to ask you to just share take a minute to think about that, share in the chat thoughts you have about, what is it that we in particular can do? What special power do astronomers have? Please share that in the chat. Thoughts. And while you're doing that, because time is short, I'm going to go on and say a few things, but love to hear from you. So here are a few points. So astronomers definitely have a unique perspective. All right. So we just heard a whole bunch about that from Laura. And that's certainly something we can bring. We have scientific expertise. Many of us are educators in different fora, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And hopefully we can also provide a trusted voice in the conversations that need to happen and the things that need to happen. So we just heard all about this. I think it's fair to say that astronomers are acutely aware of the special conditions required for a planet to be habitable, and that delicate balance and how easily disrupted it can be. And these discoveries over the past 30 years have been thrilling. We're learning so much every day, and it was fantastic to hear more just now. But one thing we've known for a really long time is that stars and the planets that circle them are insanely far away. And so they will not be the solution to the climate crisis. There is no planet B. So, as I said, one really interesting thing is that astronomers have a surprising reach. Many, many students, and here I'm going to talk just about in the US alone, take astronomy classes. I'm sure this is true all over the world. In the US, I have a number, about 250,000 students take an astronomy class every year. A lot of those students go on to be teachers themselves. So this is an opportunity. In many cases, it's the last science class those students will take. This is an opportunity to include climate change in an astronomical context in those classes, and students can leave the class with knowledge that they need and want. It's also the case that so many of us do public outreach in many different ways. There is a huge reach that planetariums and science museums have. Some 150 million people visit planetariums every year. There are special events we all know. Many of you, I'm sure, have been involved in all kinds of public outreach in this way. And so that also is an opportunity to think about how can we incorporate information and about climate change, weave that into the narratives that we use as we interact with the public. So I want to say just a few things about what the organization has been up to. One thing we did, of course, is to create this website that hopefully many of you have seen. It's now A4E.org, aka astronomersforplanet.earth. And that's a place where, among other things, we share not only with the public, but with each other, a lot of materials. And I'll just mention in particular the resource sharing part of the website, where there are materials that are open to the public, and there are also materials that we can share just among ourselves. This is actually the one, this organization has been nearly exclusively an all volunteer organization for 5 years. This is the one place where there's been some support from the US National Science Foundation for that particular project to amplify and put together that set of resources. There's also, whoops, okay, interesting. Another example of something that has been incredibly useful that was done was a set of webinars led by Travis Rector, bringing in speakers from all over to talk about all manner of things to kind of educate our own, largely to sort of educate our own community, but they were also made public as well, and those are available on YouTube. I'm going to just give a few. There's been a huge amount of public outreach. I can't possibly talk about it all, but there are just many, many examples of people giving talks, organizing events, doing all manner of public outreach in different venues. Social media. There's been social media as well. So this is one of our biggest ways to reach people. Yeah, we don't even know what all the things are that all of our members have been doing, but there's a great deal that we do know. As part of that, the team, the Steve Agnos and Jessica Agnos team have made a series of videos, and there's actually 36 of them you can find on Vimeo now. You're also going to be able to see some, you've seen some just now, and you're going to be able to see a bunch more in the spatial space at the last hour of this meeting. These are really beautiful videos that are really useful also for doing public outreach as a piece of a public outreach event you may do. So I highly recommend looking at those. Our members have been very active in publishing papers about all manner of things related to this, including the carbon footprint of our own profession of astronomy, and also things about how to communicate about climate change effectively. That is a not trivial point, and one of the reasons we need to figure out and educate ourselves, because talking about climate change is really different than talking about exoplanets, black holes, cosmic microwave background. It takes a different kind of approach and training, and so that's an important piece of what Astronomers for Planet Earth wants to do. It is also the case that climate change is having an impact on astronomy itself, and so there's a paper about that. The other thing I want to just mention is a book that's just come out, chapters written by many, many members of this of Astronomers for Planet Earth and others, edited by Travis Rector. There's a tiny URL there that can get you a copy of it for free. I highly recommend this book. It's an incredibly valuable resource for the work we're trying to do. And I think that Leo's going to share that URL in the chat. In addition, there's been multiple conferences organized, sessions at conferences. Some of these have been collaborative, like one couple with the Astronomical Society of the Pacific, some as sessions within larger meetings at the EAS, AAS, also symposium, the A4E symposium a couple of years ago that was just all about A4E related activities. So a lot has been going on. And we're all trying to help each other figure out how to do this and get the word out. Let me take just a couple minutes now at the end to say something about how A4E is organized. So we're divided into different groups, working groups for ongoing activities like the newsletter and membership, project groups for finite duration activities like organizing this meeting, regional groups for focusing on issues of different regions. These groups are created as needed, and then the steering group kind of is the glue that kind of holds that all together and includes representation from all of those groups. Now, last year, we added a really important piece to our organization, which is now a nonprofit association in Germany. And this now allows us to raise funds, and we hope to make a transition to be an organization that has staff and is able then to really expand what we can do and become sustainable as an organization. How do we connect? How do we communicate? This is really important. A4E is in some sense a hub for people who want to work on this. And so how we communicate is really important. Among members, we use the Slack space primarily. There's resource sharing, as I mentioned. We have these different groups meet in person, well, typically on Zoom. And then there's the newsletter. With the public, of course, the things I just mentioned was how we communicate. The website, Vimeo space for the videos, YouTube, and social media. So I'm going to leave it there and turn it over to Sarah, who's going to talk about the future of astronomers on the planet Earth.
Yes, thank you very much, Adrienne. Let me share my screen really quick. Right, so thank you, Adrienne, for the nice transition. As you mentioned, I'll be talking now about A4E in 2030. So this is by Lauren and myself. We're both PhD students. I guess Lauren already finished. I'm a PhD student here at the University of Würzburg. So there are a few things to be considered when we think about the year 2030. I don't know which feelings come up for yourself, but there's definitely no denying and that there's a lot going on at the moment. I'm sure you're familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals, and unfortunately, it's been shown that we are severely off track to realize this agenda. And you all know there are wars going on. There's the far right is gaining ground all over the world. We're struggling with misinformation. The 1.5 degrees are reached, and there's extreme weather events going on all over the world. So if that makes you feel uncertain about the future, that's absolutely valid. And I think, yeah, here in A4E, that definitely has space. And you are more than welcome to share your thoughts about that, which can be helpful. So that's definitely a thing. But the good news is that we are also, we also have good news, sorry. And that means that we can combat the climate crisis. We have everything that we need, from renewable energies to changes that we know need to happen, and technologies that are out there. But what we really need is the implementation of this and people that continue to fight for this. And the biggest power that we have to make this happen is to inspire each other, to talk to each other, to motivate people within our bubble, not the whole world at once, but person by person, so to say. So how can we as A4E contribute in this sense? What is our way we fit in? And what we want to do is to mobilize and empower the global astronomical community to really take action and to get active by themselves. So this includes professional astronomers, amateur astronomers, students, and retired astronomers, and just anyone who's passionate about astronomy. To do so, we want to really build a strong community, build a network, and get together in events like this in order to share a vision. So that's what we want to do here. We want to unite all of humanity in awe and wonder because we have this unique perspective of our planet that we want to share. And this is also what will eventually allow us to communicate the urgency of climate action. If you have this sense of awe and really admire Earth for what it is, the wonderful little rocky planet that it is, you can communicate this urgency. So we want to really tell a story and use this narrative that we have. So our goal is that we want to reach about 10% of the global population by 2030. So what we have in mind is that we share our vision with our bubble, as I mentioned, with the network that we have, and just forward the vision that we have, like illustrated in this little video, and then bit by bit, person by person, and not as a whole planet at once, we can really get to the change that we want to see in this planet. As Adrienne already mentioned, we already have a lot of tools and things going on. There's been 5 years of Astronomers for Planet Earth, so a lot of things happened. Travis' book, which has already been praised in the chat, so shout out one more time. The great resources that we have on our website, there's plenty of stuff there. I'll get to that in a minute. And the big community that we grew. So we have our Slack channel. There are many projects going on, regional groups and working groups where we are all volunteer basically and get together and voluntarily in our free time make all these things happen. So that is really a great thing. That is the solid start for the things we want to achieve now. As I mentioned, there is a lot of resources. One could even say there's too many, which I don't think is true if you make your way through, but if you would prefer to make your way through all these resources with other A4E's, I invite you to join this meeting on 6th of February at 5 p.m. UTC. You can register here. We can share the links later on. So that is one of the things that is immediately coming up in the future. Another project that is going on that you can support if you would like to is that we have drafted a letter for the organizers of the International Cosmic Ray Conference 2025, because in contrast to the previous years, there's unfortunately no full hybrid access. So we as an organization drafted this letter and now invite people to sign it. And this is one of the great powers that we have as A4E and as organization. There's already 50 signatures almost, and you can sign it as well if you would like. And this is just a great example of the impact that we can have, where every one of us as individual might feel powerless. It would be more difficult, but as an organization, we can really group up and communicate and have a really strong voice. Another project that's going on in the moment is our transition review committee. So that's just been set up, and they will review, I think, 6 people, if I'm not mistaken, but Chet can correct me if I'm wrong. And they will review all the past achievements and things that we've already put together and give us recommendations for our future development, which I'm super excited about. Future projects. So we will, as I mentioned, look forward to hear what comes about. Some things that we already have in mind is to strengthen the collaboration with planetariums. As for example, in 2019, there were about 150 million visits to planetariums. So picture this number, 150 million visits. That really makes evident this video that I showed just before, how spreading our message one by one and planetarium by planetarium, for example, can spread over the whole world. Another tool thing that's super useful for this is social media. We already have accounts on almost all platforms you can imagine. So I definitely invite you to follow us wherever you are active and share and like our content. And as Adrienne already mentioned, we've had a great video webinar and workshops that we want to restart and further develop and study the impact of our astronomical facilities and conferences. Now, what do we need to make all this happen? As you heard, a lot of these things are already going on by themselves, but we definitely always need more people. We need more people to not only listen, but to also speak and share our message. So for this, we want to provide you with efficient communication tools and get everybody involved for these things. And we want to strengthen more collaboration between existing networks like the astronomical societies and other NGOs and organizations out there that have a similar message. So if you yourself are involved in anything like this, definitely get in touch and we can strengthen all these connections. That's always helpful and always very inspiring and motivating. And finally, as Adrienne said, we have the opportunity to receive funding now. So if you want to help the mission of A4E, we also welcome donations. Anything is helpful. If you have $10, 10 euros, you can already help with that a lot. So where do we see ourselves if we have you on board and if we can get this support? Where do we see ourselves in 5 years? I already shared this message that we want to reach 10% of the global population with our message and really have them have an understanding of this uniqueness of our planet, which will, I'm sure, automatically motivate them to really care for it as well. We not only want to do this by communication and trying out things, but also accompany it with research and see how we can really make the change happen that we are looking to get. So accompanying research will be a big factor, and we want to continue to support projects worldwide. And by that, I mean, we don't only want to have these global virtual events. It's definitely a big factor of A4E, but there's so many people being active in their local hub, in their community, doing maybe region-wise smaller projects that are just as important. So we want to highlight that and support that as best as we can. And as I already mentioned, one of our goals definitely is to have secured funding in order to maintain the organization that we have and really also have a sustainable way of running this organization. So this brings me to now, what is happening now in order to get there in 5 years. I'm raising here 3 questions that you can take home, ponder about, discuss in the breakouts, for example. How can we get there? How do we actually reach these 10%? And what narrative and how do we best reach these people? So I'll leave this up. That will go into the breakouts. And that brings me to what will go on next. So I just concluded the A4E address. We'll now move on to the Zoom breakouts. There will be 2 sessions where we can discuss these ideas. And I'm really looking forward to connect to you. And after all that, we'll go to Spatial and try out this new immersive platform. It's been really exciting in the first session today. So I'm also looking forward to do that again. And with that, I thank the organizers again and give it over to the breakout sessions.